a guy came up to me in the street. I hope I can get away with this. It's a beauty.
In other words, if you were me, what would you do now?
Well, just wrap it up.
I don't see no black and white couples in England or America walking around proud holding their children.
What it needed, of course, was you to say at some point, which you'd never done before, I need help. So what was the moment when you decided to do that?
It's very hard to say you need help, you know, because you think you can solve all your own problems.
Performs like a playboy? I have my moments.
That's all we have time for. She's got the job, she's passed the audition, she's done my pub next week. Madonna, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you for watching. From all of us here, a very good night. Good night.
So, Michael, it seems a little unfair having to interview you like the local tennis coach having to play Roger Federer.
That's very nicely put. I don't know what it means, but I think that there's a collegialism of interviewers, so we treat each other quite well. I think we understand what the problem is. So we sense the fear.
Maybe we've learnt as well how to be good interviewees.
Yeah, I think we understand what the problem is, and I think that we talk too much. If anything, I do, that's for sure. I gobble up the mouth terribly when I'm in this situation. I'm sort of nervous wreck, sort of chatting away there.
Don't worry, I'll just rudely cut you off if that becomes a problem.
Please, and edit. Edit properly.
There's a line in the novel Madame Bovary that's something like, we must not touch our idols because the guilt might rub off on our fingers. When you've met or interviewed people of whom you're a fan, has the shine often come off, or more often has it been a happy experience?
I don't expect too much. I mean, I've appreciated them as another person before I became an interviewer as a star or whatever. The gloss. But then when you met them, you realise you're just like you. They're worried about the same things, paying the gas bill at home and all that sort of thing, and what was the wife doing and all that. So, I mean, I think that you come to understand that the facade is not what's bothering you, not what you want to reach. It's that inner sort of person that's there, the real person. Sometimes it's the people that believe their own nonsense, so therefore that's always the problem. They have this kind of shell around them which you can't penetrate. But the majority, I found that after a bit of patient probing, that you could get somewhere near to a different person, the person that they really were. I think that's great. Otherwise, I don't think it was worth doing.
How did you relax people? Because it's not a very relaxing environment, a television studio.
The initial contact is the first thing, and the eye contact is terribly important. Well, I mean, on my show, I mean, your show's lovely because you sit down and chat away and then away we go. I used to make people walk downstairs to a band playing, come on. They'd stand at the top of the stairs and they'd have all their makeup on, all that sort of thing, and there'd be 500 people in the audience, 10 million people watching at home. They knew all that stuff, all the stats and things. And then the floor manager would say, enjoy yourself. What? Are you crazy? The band would play and they stand there. You could see the like startled rabbits. So the first thing you had to do when if they got to the bottom of the stairs, I had one politician who actually turned left instead of right and was sitting with my piano player. And that's how much he knew about my show. But anyway, but once you got them down there, then the job that you had to do was to look at them and just sort of convince them by looking, and I suppose body going forward a bit like that so that they might lean into you as well. All those silly things matter. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then you might be in a bit of trouble. Generally speaking, it did.
Who's the most charming person you've ever met?
Oh, Tom Hanks, Rod Hull, the emu. Those things you get remembered by. It's daft, isn't it? You see, this is the entire thing. All the people that you've interviewed, all the great names and all that from across the widest area of public life. And then the only thing after all that time that you remember before is being attacked by an emu. It's an Australian bird, that I hear, isn't it? I don't know why I'm so fond of Australia.
I think while you're here, you should steer clear of Taronga Zoo and other places where emus, because it might be you, Sir Michael.
Yeah, but it's an absurdity, you see. That's the entire thing, isn't it, this sort of television fame? It really is. That's how I always looked at it. And I suppose that helped you to get a kind of a balanced view of the person you're talking opposite, because no matter how famous they might be, they've got the same problems that you have. They've got the same conflicts inside them and all that. And I think if you think about that, then A, you're not going to distort your own path through life, and secondly, you might actually get somewhere near to what they really are.
How do you think the public's relationship with celebrities has changed over the course of your
I think
career?
it was transformed all our life, actually. It's just the technology of life now. You know, I mean, I don't think there's ever been a time, I was thinking this the other day, where grandchildren are so divorced from their grandparents. I mean, I've got 8 grandchildren. I love them all. They love me, hopefully. But on the other hand, I've got little in common, because I don't do the internet and all that stuff. I just don't do it. I don't bother with it at all. But it's their life, their obsession, and I feel very strongly that I should try, but then I think, no, why? What kind of world am I entering? What kind of world are they living in? I mean, you hear all the bad things about it. There are good things, of course there are. But it seems to me there's a lot of pain there, and a lot of anger, and a lot of nastiness, which I don't want to know about. So we're kind of 2 separate people. I learned so much from my grandparents. My son, Michael, I know, learned a lot from my father. I don't have the same relationship, and I want it with the grandchildren, but it's not there.
At the same time, perhaps, that we are more disconnected from people in our own actual lives because we spend our time on social media, I wonder if it allows people to feel more connected to complete strangers like celebrities.
Maybe. I don't really sort of consider that at all. I just feel kind of... the longer I live, the more disconnected I am with the world around me. And I'm glad now that I did into my career, I had my career when I did, and not now. I think journalism was a lot more fun. I look back at my days in Fleet Street when it was a bit like Dodge City without the sheriff. And people behaved in a very different way. And if you survived it, it meant that, you know, you could drink an awful lot and all that stuff. But it seemed to me to be a much more vibrant and warmer place than it is now. I mean, I think that's true all of journalism. It shifted the pulse of journalism, in my view, the new technology. And they're not quite the guys and girls they used to be. I don't know. I mean, it's just a different world, and I struggle terribly to actually try to be part of it. And the more I see of it and the more I operate within it, the more I'm glad that I had my career when I did. Now, that sounds terribly old-fashioned and all that, but it's, you know, you can't take away from me what I knew about that world and what I know about this world, and it was different.
Would a show like Parkinson even work today, given, for example, that celebrities can broadcast whatever they want to broadcast about themselves?
The mystery's gone. I mean, when I first came into television to do a show with Showbiz Show, if you like, my great heroes were from the cinema. And when I had the great stars on, like, I don't know, Orson Welles and people like Jimmy Cagney and Fred Astaire and all that, all my heroes, I knew not a thing about them that wasn't written by Hedda Hopper or by a publicity department in Hollywood. It was all that. It was all fan stuff. I couldn't go to a machine like they can nowadays, but it's all there. There's nobody in the world who's that famous that people don't know anything about them. They know everything about them. So the entire mystery of the job has gone. And from my point of view, it was virgin territory. Because wherever I asked them, the people had never heard it before. The other thing, too, which is quite interesting, was that because they'd only ever seen it 30 foot high on a screen, when Jimmy Cagney came around and it was that high, there was a gasp. Or when Fred Astaire really did dance down the stairs, there was another gasp. You know, it was a lot more revealing, and you felt much more part of that excitement than you get today. I think people, today they're blasé. They know nothing about these people. So, I'm not impressed. So what? It wasn't like that at one time.
You said before Tom Hanks was the most charming person that you'd ever met. What is it about Tom Hanks that gives him great charm?
His modesty, his humour. He's very intelligent, very bright. And he treats fools as charmingly as he does other people. And I just admire that in anybody. And, you know, there's a ritual involved in being Tom Hanks or being anybody as famous as that. And that's that you've done every interview show in the world. You've been asked all the questions, good ones and dumb ones that there are. So bound to be a bit testy at times. And you're bound at times to think, oh, God, what am I doing here? But he never reveals that. I'm sure he feels it. Of course he does, because he's a very bright, intelligent man. But he never lets on.
Is charm something that can be faked by somebody in that kind of interview situation?
Well, I don't think you can fake it for too long. I think after a while, you can see it edging through the real person. I've had enough of this, you know, sort of thing. So it's an interesting job. I mean, I was very lucky in that I got that stage in the TV interviewing where my generation were finding out about people who had lived extraordinary lives and people who knew nothing about them, rather than what the situation today where you know everything about them. So from that point of view, it's much more the excitement of exploration than I think you can engender nowadays.
Everybody has days where they get out of bed and they feel like, oh, I just don't want to go to work today. You sound like you absolutely loved your job. Did you still have days like that where it wasn't very fun?
Yes, there were days like that. Not too many of them. I think that, you know, that I was always excited by the prospect of going to work. And that was the same when I was a print journalist, I still am, as well as being a TV journalist. I got great excitement out of doing a job I'd wanted to do from being a child. And it never let me down at all. I probably let it down now and again, but not vice versa. I just think being a journalist is a wonderful way of earning a living. Just, you can be yourself. You can wander hither and thither. You can affect people's lives. You can affect people's knowledge of people. All that's very exciting, I think. And although it's changed radically, in my time, certainly it has, I still get the same exhilaration from writing a piece or whatever it might be, or doing an interview, as I always did. I don't get blasé about it. I don't think you can afford to be that. Because once you get sort of, well, I've done this for so many years now, it's standing on my head, you don't do it very well at all. You've got to retain a kind of freshness about it. And the freshness of the people that you meet, of course. You meet everybody.
If you landed Donald Trump for an interview, how would you approach it?
God, perish the thought. Oh, dear. Donald Trump. Yes, I mean, there's not a journalist worth their salt who would not want to actually sit down with him and just sort of find out why he's such a ridiculous man. And I think you'd have to be equally ridiculous, in a sense, to try to imagine that you might get something from him. I think that's the problem. He's impenetrable in his idiocy, in my view. I mean, you watch him, you think, oh, what could I ask him? What could I do? What could I say? He's a very dangerous man, you know that. And you feel sorry for America. In that sense, you feel sorry for all of us, because he's the leader of the Western world. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there with Mr. Trump. It really is. But, you know, he's not a joke at all. He's really not that.
What about what's happening in your own country with Brexit?
Well, I don't think Mr. Johnson, for all his quirks, is Donald Trump. I don't at all. But nonetheless, he's not my kind of politician. And I think we need somebody, a different man, to lead us out of the quagmire we're in. And it's a quagmire being made of political chicanery, basically. Gangs of politicians on both sides deciding a long time ago exactly what they wanted out of this result, no matter what the people had voted, and spoiling each other's attempts to achieve what they want to achieve. And the confusion's awful and total. I was a Remainer myself, still am, only because I thought, you know, imagined it might be too complicated to get out of. But the 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the vote, I went back up north to where I was born, the depressed now South Yorkshire coalfield, no mines there, of course, where my dad worked. And I found a situation that was horrific. People were dispossessed, had the highest rates of cancer, male cancers, avoidable ones, booze and cigarettes and stuff like that. And I came back and said to Mary, my wife, there's no way they're going to vote but except one way, and that's out. And that's what happened. So it's a nation divided by that kind of extreme, and that's never a very pleasant situation to find your country in.
If the UK crashes out, or even if it gets out with a deal, is it going to help those people?
I think that, I mean, quite obviously, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, nobody does. But I mean, it seems to me that there's nobody, they're not thinking that, are they? They're not thinking that way. They're thinking about one thing, shall we stay or shall we go? But nobody's saying that this is what would really happen. No, they're all guessing. They're all pontificating. Nobody knows. It's a terrible, I mean, my view is that having had the vote and having been decided one way or t'other, then we should do exactly what the people voted. Otherwise, I don't know what I want, but that's it. That's democracy.
You're here in Australia for a tour. You're here in Australia.
I'm in Australia to go to hospital and have a cough. I do apologise. It's awful. It's embarrassing to have a sore throat like this. But
oh, it's fine.
I've also got a runny nose. You notice that too?
You poor thing.
Yeah, I've got. It's airplanes. It's air travel. I'm coming by sea next time. Sorry, go on.
You're right. You're here in Australia for a tour. You've spent a lot of time in Australia over the years. What do you like about coming here?
I arrived in Australia in a state of high dudgeon. I just had a row at the BBC. And it stirred up all those kind of working class feelings that somebody like myself has, you know, as against them. And I needed to get away. I imagined that if I went to Australia, nobody would know me and nobody would care and whatever. And I didn't find that at all. I got to the airport. In those days, they had the Sydney airport press conference, which was a fearsome thing. Well, the first question the guy asked me was it true that I was arrived in Australia because I couldn't get a job in England? And I'm driving to my hotel, and on the radio, a guy called me a carpetbagger. So it wasn't a place to be here, to have people pat you on the head and say, you'll be all right, you know, you're on your own. So it was I kind of admired that. I liked that. I just felt at home, quite frankly. I really did. I mean, my father, many, many years ago, had decided that Australians were sunburned Yorkshiremen because based on the fact that a Yorkshireman bumped into Australia early on in your history. And that the Yorkshire people played cricket exactly like Australia, or the other way around. Australians played exactly like Yorkshiremen. So that was my father's theory, and he wanted to be here to see that, to sit on the hill at Sydney and enjoy it. Sadly, he never made it. But there are lots of things working for me about Australia. I'd always been interested in the country. Keith Miller was my great hero. I adored Miller. I had a huge sort of boyhood crush on him. I also remember this extraordinary thing that when I first saw him, I was about 12 years of age. So just after the war, this great bronze god walked down the stairs and with his baton, out to bat, and he was so handsome. He had this wonderful black hair and good teeth, and and as he walked past me, I was looking at him. He went like that, and I saw he had a comb in his hand, and even that didn't bring him down in my view. But 40 years later, I was standing outside a restaurant in Sydney where I'd gone with him for lunch, and he went like that. And I said, have you still got the same comb? He said, as a matter of fact, yes. But I mean, there's something in that which I liked. It's just something about Australia, about sort of familiarity, about friendliness. I mean, I've been very happy here. I've had a wonderful time here. And this tour, it sounds has a kind of valedictory sense to it, but I'm not here to throw myself under a bus. I'm just here to say thank you because I've enjoyed my life here and I enjoy my career here. And I have lots and lots of very good friends here. So we're just saying ta-ra, basically.
You speaking of Keith Miller reminds me also of you interviewing Shane Warne. And, you know, whether you like or don't like Shane Warne, I don't think anyone can deny that he's a character. And I just wonder if being a character is a bit of a dying breed.
Oh, well, I think that Australia will never be short of characters. I mean, I think that there's one on every street corner. That's what I found. And the show that we're doing, the clips, we're looking at people that we're famous, of course, for Slocum, people like that, but also the real characters, the dinky-die Aussies, you know. I mean, they're a race apart. And the wonderful thing about them is that they're not forced. They are actually natural human beings with a slight curb on their personality.
You're doing the show with your son. I was going to say that must be lovely, but I notice you're just taking the mickey out of each other constantly.
We
while
do
you've
all the
been
time.
here.
I don't like him very much, actually. He's a terrible interviewer. No. Michael's been my production company now for the past 12 years or so, and he's produced shows here and in Britain too. Produced and directed them and written them. He's also a very good writer, which I'm particularly pleased about. And we've written a couple of books together, a tribute to two friends of mine, to George Best. Well, Muhammad Ali wasn't a friend of mine, but I did interview him 4 or 5 times. And so it's a working relationship as well as being father-son. And I rather like it, actually, because it's nice to feel that, you know, that there's a continuum.
You've had a serious illness recently, cancer. How has that changed you?
I think a lot. I mean, I couldn't tell you how, but I think it brings out the best and the worst in you, really. When I first of all had prostate cancer, it was, you know, you're shocked and you imagine the worst. But then, you know, you think about it, you talk to people who know these things, and you, if you're fortunate, you recover. To the point where you can make fun of it. In the show, I have Dame Edna Everett talking about her husband's prostate cancer. Now, I said to Michael, we had a debate, I said, do you think that's a bit over the top? And he said, no. He said, you know, you laughed at it, you made fun of it and all that. So people have to. You have to deal with it that way. So this outrageous piece of television with the dame talking about her husband's problems. And he says, or she says, sorry, the dame, that I should come to Australia to become a prostate donor because her husband's in trouble, you see, so that's the reason I came here.
So you'll be leaving a little bit lighter on the,
yeah, exactly,
on the way home.
Yeah.
When you look back over your life from your standpoint of 84 years, for what are you the most grateful?
My parents, I think, because the likelihood of me achieving what I achieved from where I came from was very unlikely. I mean, England in those days, in the 30s, was very class-ridden. You're a miner, you knew your place, and the fact was that you were in the mining communities that you'll follow your dad down the pit. My parents weren't going to have that at all. I mean, it wasn't myself who decided, although I didn't want to, but they did on my behalf. So I've always been grateful for that foresight because, you know, they weren't just making a decision. They were actually fighting a convention within the pit village itself because the strength of the pit village was always that the continuity, it was the solidarity. You took one piece out of it and it weakened it. So there was a good social reason, if you like, why it retained that hold on people and that expectation that they went and continued the job. But my father wouldn't have it, and my mother wouldn't have it either. And I didn't. I mean, they took me down the pit, and I was terrified, and that was the end of it. So I think just having parents like that changed my life totally and utterly. I could never have done, even thought of doing whatever I have achieved, without that.
I know you lost your father a long time ago. What about your mum?
No, she died. She was 97 when she died. She had a long period where she was she was in a home and she didn't quite know on occasions where she was. And yet, this extraordinary thing you find out about this situation in people, and you know, it might happen to me, might happen to anybody. But I couldn't reach her at times because she didn't know who I was, and there were days when it was just awful. But I'd take her out in the car and I put a record on, Frank Sinatra, Songs for Spring and Lovers. She knew every lyric, every single one perfectly well. So the parts of her brain which were functioning, which, you know, was the mum I knew. But she was a character. I mean, you know, she brought my dad back from the death. Really. I mean, my dad had died 30 years before her, and she insisted he was still around. And one day I said to her, she said that, you know, she was on about my dad being down the pub, and I said, look, Mum, he's not down the pub, love. I mean, he died. I'd never said that to her in that extreme. And she said, look, nobody told me. And I said, well, I'm telling you now that he's dead. And then she thought for a minute. She said, if your father's dead, Mr. Clever Cloak, she said, who did I climb over to get out of bed this morning? There's no answer.
That's too good.
It's the truth of the feeble-minded, isn't it? It's wonderful. I mean, that's the brain are gone, but there are instincts within it, which we're not going to have me telling her that. You know.
Do you still think about them every day?
I do, very much so. I mean, they got me in that sense. I was very lucky. I mean, my father was not just a good dad to me, he was a very good granddad to his children. I mean, Michael, my son, was here with me. I adored his granddad. I learned an awful lot from him, which is why we're going back to the thing we talked about earlier about the disassociation there is between the gap between today's grandfather and the kids, which is nobody's fault. It's not the kids, but it's about just what's happened to the world. It's so, in my view, not distressing, but unhelpful.
So, Michael, it's been lovely to chat to you. Thank you so much.
I apologise for my coffee.
It's completely fine.
No, it's not, but thank you all.
We'll edit around it. It's okay.
But thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.